রে বন্ধু তোর পিড়িতের আগুন বুকে জ্বলে দিকি দিকি
Ladies and gentlemen, we ask that you pay attention for a few minutes to watch the following security video. The object of this video is to organize a possible evacuation in case of an emergency. The evacuation teams of the Palacio Municipal will act accordingly to control any type of emergency that could occur. The evacuation order will be received through the loudspeakers. The access to the auditorium is done through the main hall of the building. The front doors will be open for the access and exit of all guests at the event. In case of an emergency, all the glass doors in the main hall will be opened. Likewise, all the front doors of the auditorium, on the sides of the building marked as emergency exits, the doors on the sides of the first row of seats, the marble staircase exit, the complementary areas, and the emergency exit stairs that end at the platform will also be opened. Security staff will be in the center of the auditorium and at the front of the stage guiding guests in order to organize the exit. Once the order has been given, stay calm. Follow at all times the instructions given by the emergency team staff. They will be identified by wearing a reflective vest. Do not return to gather personal objects. Walk at a fast pace without running. Do not use the elevators. After exiting the building, if you notice the absence of a companion, inform the building personnel and follow their instructions. We inform you of the existence of medical assistance at your disposal in case of it being required. Don't hesitate to contact the security staff. In case of an evacuation, go to one of the following 3 meeting points. 1. Avenida Capital de España and Via de Dublin. 2. Calle Ribera del Sena and Glorieta de Su Alteza Real Don Juan de Borbón. 3. Calle Ribera del Sena and Calle Strasburgo. Thank you very much for your attention. We kindly request that you keep your mobile phones off or muted. Welcome to a unique experience. An event where leaders of open and disaggregated network solutions and the wider telecoms industry gather to share and discuss recipes for success. Welcome to Fyuz. Communications. Gastronomy. Networking. Connectivity. Entertainment. Innovation. Are you ready to taste the future of connectivity? Telecom Infra project will show us their recipe for the future. Are you ready to learn some new tips? Don't forget to try a bite to eat at the Fyuz Street Market. Starters to be served in 3, 2, 1. Bon appetit!
time. Oh, 'cause if everything has to change, yeah. No, I don't wanna do it, oh no. Oh, well, of course, and loving isn't made by force. And there's a choice.
Hello, it's me again. Thank you, and thank you for your patience. And let me be clear on one thing. At TIP, we do many things, but we don't do mics, okay? So this wasn't a disaggregated microphone. That was not the issue. But anyway, so welcome to day 2 of Fyuz. And if you were here yesterday, which I hope you were, then you know. And if you didn't, then there are some things you need to know, like the breakout locations that are spread across the building, the meeting rooms, the fact that everything is about food, the fact that we actually put the food hiding in several locations so that you have to walk the entire expo to taste everything. That is deliberate, sorry about that, but you will increase your step count today. Recordings, which is frequently asked questions, will be available for nearly all of the numbers going on main stage. And I think you have the breakout sessions on the agenda, so if you are interested in any of them, you show up there. Most importantly, the single most important thing today, of course, the Wi-Fi password. If you didn't get it yesterday or if you weren't here, this is the Wi-Fi network. It works really well, by the way, and the password. You want to use it. So yesterday was a really good day, Open RAN Summit that we delivered together with our colleagues from the Oran Alliance. I really enjoyed listening to the state of things from the industry, both from different operators in different regions, as well as several suppliers. And I think they were all giving a very good impression and description on where we are with Open RAN and also where we're going. But probably my favorite kind of summary of the day was the closing interview that we had with David Muñoz, if you watched it, where he was talking about gastronomy and his restaurants and, of course, cooking. He's a reputable chef. And he said one thing at the end, that innovation is about taking risks and exploring avenues that nobody have explored before. And it's all about perseverance. Because, of course, you'll be doubted, and there'll be challenges, and it will not be clear. But if you really, really think that is the right thing to do, all you have to do is insist and keep going. We had not prepared that, actually, but it reminded me so much about Open RAN that I had to laugh, actually. So I think that was a good summary of, for closing day 1. But today is our TIP Summit Day. So TIP, of course, the flagship for TIP is still Open RAN because it's happening ahead of the disaggregation of anything else in the industry, and also because I think there is a bigger opportunity for Open RAN to happen. But TIP is much wider than that, and you're going to be hearing some of that today. There was some really cool announcements today as well, so stay tuned and watch the space because I think there are going to be some announcements coming today as well. As Vodafone yesterday, we dropped several news. And actually, I have maybe one that I can mention for today, which is not about Open RAN, but about transport. So we just announced this morning that we are going to commercially roll out the disaggregated cell-site gateway starting with Turkey. So that's going to be live and rolling out in our network. That is something that we explored. Thank you very much. You're very kind. That's something that we explored fully with TIP starting in 2020 and 2021. And it's a good example for me on how this process goes, how TIP can actually add a lot of value to operators and suppliers in getting these things done, and how the overall process actually is complete when you start the commercial rollout. So I think it's great, and I'm really proud of that. You stay here tomorrow, of course, is the Metaverse Day. I strongly recommend you stay for that. And there is a beautiful connection between the 3 days where we talk about connectivity, Open RAN, that is our flagship project, the rest of the network being disaggregated, and on day 3, why are we doing all this? For providing connectivity to everybody and fueling the metaverse. So before we even continue, I want to thank our sponsors. We wouldn't be here without them, so really thank you very much. It's a pleasure and an honor to have this crowded slide with so many people helping us and contributing to make Fyuz a big success. So please, a round of applause for these people. I said it before, but I'll say it again. You want to see the exposition, the expo, and there are 2 reasons for that. First is these people are presenting really nice products and ideas, and you may get inspired. But even if you wouldn't, the food is more or less on the same place, so you really want to go there and walk the floor. So remember to post anything you like or you don't like, or any question, or whatever you want, really. That's what social media is for. And you can use the hashtag Fyuz22 so that we can read you. And by the way, I was going to introduce you to Anthony, but there is no Anthony, so I will not do that. So this is the agenda for the rest of the day. You don't want to miss any of this unless there is a breakout session that you are really interested in attending. So with that, we're going to start with the TIP Summit. And the first thing I would like to do is to introduce you to, I think, one of the most important persons, at least in the context of today, which is our new Executive Director of TIP, Kristian Toivo. I go back a long time with Kristian, and I remember actually he was in Madrid a few years ago in 2010. I convinced him to run a half marathon with me. And now he's back, and I'm thinking that he's going to run the other half. Is that correct?
Absolutely. I've done a few half marathons since, and following the fantastic discussions yesterday about Open RAN, I'm not going to say it's a marathon, but it's maybe a half marathon, and we are well past the 10K. We're actually on kilometer 15, I would say, when it comes to Open RAN.
I do agree. Here is the clicker.
Thank you, Yago. Okay, so it's great to be here. My first chance to talk about TIP, what we have achieved, and where we are going. And we have come a long way, and this one of the biggest revelations for me when I took up this opportunity to work with TIP is to realize that this is a community. You are the community out there, and many other people who are maybe not physically here, but mentally and virtually part of everything we do. This is a big community. There's more than 650 participants in TIP. There's more than 100 service providers, operators, ISPs, whatever you want to call them in different parts of the world, but people who run organizations who deliver services based on connectivity solutions. There's 90 plus, so close to 100 vendors, OEMs that are part of our community and actively contributing, working in the project groups and the solution groups. And there's more than 120 integrators, infra providers, aggregators of various kind that take those wonderful products and solutions and make them available for the service providers to run their business and applications on. So what have we achieved with this community over the last couple of years? More than 100 trials, deployments in more than 45 countries. And as we have been preparing this slide, we have learned there's actually more. So we started with the smaller number, but the reality is that there's probably more than 100 already, because this number increases on a regular basis when all of us and all of you execute on those projects. And there's just a highlight. So as Yago said, it's so much more than Open RAN. It's on the transport side. I was super happy to hear the announcement that Yago just made. This morning I had a chance to meet some of our community members working with Open Wi-Fi, and have a feeling there is a similar type of transformation just waiting to happen, that the Open RAN is already in the process of going through. And you can see a number of operators, managed service providers that are executing these trials and deployments. So what's next with TIP? Over the last couple of months, as I've been working with the team, we have been discussing with a lot of the participants and sponsors and the community at large. Of course, many things were already in the process. Some things we have started to work on for the future. One thing that will be announced today is a next phase, next level of TIP's test and validation process. I mean, many of you representing vendors, you already have these ribbons, and what we have done and what the team has been working on, and what we will now start to implement following Fyuz, is a more, let's say, market matching way of testing, validating, and badging both products and solutions. And the key thing with this is that we are kind of covering the double dimensions. One dimension in terms of the maturity of the products and solutions, going from more straightforward bronze badge, which is basically requirements compliant, to a silver badge, which basically means that in a well-controlled environment, in community labs and environments that have been well managed and conform to TIP's principles, we go through the test plans, to the ultimate gold badge, which is really covering not just functional requirements, but also all the operational aspects and potentially even field trial environments that confirm that the solution is ready for commercial grade deployment. So that's the x-axis, if you like, but there's the other part which is equally important, that we recognize that our solutions, disaggregated solutions, are consisting of multiple components and products. So we really take a solution view, and we will also include the system integration partnership and who's been doing that part of the work in the actual badging and communication process. And all of this will be presented on the TIP Exchange that we are in the process of revamping. So watch that space, there's more coming. I wanted to have, there's a lot of engineers in the room, so without a slide that is complex and difficult to understand, you can't have a presentation. So this is a flagship slide that is just illustrating a certain traffic light process that we are addressing. So some of you know a little bit of my background. I've been working with systems, particularly core networks, in my good old days. I know what it takes to make a system release happen, particularly in a traditional vendor environment. And that's what many of the vendors that we know from before are still working and doing a great job of. Taking the Open RAN as an example, we feel, and I feel, we are in a situation today where we have disaggregated, we are pulling the components together as part of the solutions, but we are still looking for the way to effectively integrate, validate, and it's kind of a feeling that many people do it over and over again. And as you see in the middle of that slide, on the yellow traffic light, we kind of do system validation every time from scratch with the operator that is involved. And this was, by the way, highlighted yesterday also in some of the panel discussions quite clearly from the operator representatives. Where we do want to take it, and we see that TIP is going to be the enabler of making it happen, is taking the process to the right and turning the traffic light from yellow to green, and find a way, and the exact details we'll come back to, but we believe that TIP will be, as part of the process we just talked about, the test and validation, able to develop a more stringent and disciplined approach with which we can simulate and live up to some of that efficiency that in a closed ecosystem was the way of doing it. And by that means that we can verify and validate once and deploy many. So watch that space. There's much more work to be done, but this is a basic strategic initiative that we have kicked off. We also do other cool things. Obviously, many of you are here for Open RAN. I hope most of you are here for the overall TIP status. And of course, all of us are here to learn about the metaverse. So the Metaverse Ready Networks project group was kicked off. There's been a tremendous interest both from the vendor community and the operators to involve themselves in that process. So it's going to be interesting to see how that project group evolves. Also, not to forget, we talk a lot about technology, products, platforms, software, hardware. That technology needs to be applied, deployed, and operated. And one thing we don't talk enough about, I believe, in this industry is the operational transformation needed and the skills that are needed to really effectively continue and implement on this journey to open and disaggregated connectivity solutions. TIP Academy was launched by TIP and a number of partners, and particularly Accenture is helping us in driving that out to the market. We have 8 TIP members who have contributed actively to the first curriculum, which is Open RAN focused. We are going to expand into other areas to match our overall strategy of the areas that we are working on. We have 5 major corporate clients that have signed up to deploy TIP Academy throughout their organization to upskill their employees. And I had the pleasure a couple of weeks ago when I was in Washington, D.C., to sign a memorandum of understanding with USAID, which is the US government arm for providing aid in developing markets. So TIP Academy and its curriculum will be a basis for that. So more to come. We need to cover many more areas. We need to get all of the companies that you represent, both to contribute and, of course, to use the excellent learning material. And all of us on a personal basis need to take care of our own upskilling. I mean, the world moves fast. Super good. Only remains to be say, are we ready to go? What do you think, Yago?
I think you just laid out the vision for TIP to fill the void of system integration in the industry. That was a really strong statement, and I really love the TIP Academy reference.
Cool.
But we said and we created some expectations that Fyuz is a way to taste technology, and also that you're going to get good food today. So while it's not time for lunch yet, we would like to welcome on stage Quique Dacosta, who's a 6 Michelin star chef that's been awarded Best Restaurant in Europe for 2 consecutive years. So I'd like to welcome Quique.
Hola, Quique.
Buenos días.
¿Cómo estás?
Muy bien, muchas gracias.
Por favor.
Gracias.
Quique, muchísimas gracias por estar con nosotros hoy.
Un placer.
Es un honor tenerte, pero también tengo que decir que alguien como tú, en 6 estrellas Michelin, si las he contado bien, y galardonado 2 veces, 2 años consecutivos, mejor restaurante de Europa en Denia, tengo que decir que también es un orgullo que seas español.
Gracias. Bueno, esto nos lleva a la posición de elevar las expectativas de los consumidores, de hacerles venir desde cualquier parte del mundo a disfrutar de una experiencia singular en un territorio no llamado a la alta cocina, si tiramos la vista 30 años atrás. Y lo único que nos hace es pensar que los logros obtenidos solamente nos sirven para avalar el trabajo que hacemos hoy y proyectarnos hacia el futuro.
¿Pero cómo lo haces, macho? ¿Cómo lo consigues?
Seguramente lo primero y fundamental es que me rodeo del mejor y el máximo talento posible para que mi proyecto ideológico sea un proyecto de todos o de muchos y de que ellos lo vayan ramificando, haciendo grande y sintiéndose identificado con el mismo, y a la misma vez ese proyecto iniciático se vaya ramificando con las inquietudes y los talentos de los que se van incorporando a él.
Pues suena sencillo. Estoy seguro que no es tan fácil.
No lo es en un sector atomizado, en un sector relevante para la cultura, la economía de los territorios, para la manera de proyectar estos mismos hacia el mundo. Sabemos que vivimos un mundo muy conectado, con mucha agilidad, y seguramente España es uno de los territorios relevantes, tradicionalmente hablando, donde la gastronomía es rica y plural, de norte a sur y este a oeste, y donde seguramente por una serie de coyunturas se ha dado unas circunstancias singulares que han aflorado en los últimos 30 años, 35 años, por toda la península ibérica, talento extraordinario, que tienen una perspectiva sobre lo heredado con la vocación de respetarlo e innovarlo.
¿Qué es más importante, los ingredientes o la elaboración? Perdona mi ignorancia.
Bueno, yo creo que lo que cambia, el planteamiento sería no el O, sino el I. O sea, yo creo que en la cocina hay que plantear, quitar las OEs, porque tradición o modernidad, el producto o la técnica, la tecnología o el conocimiento, y si quitamos las O's y ponemos IES, conseguimos evolucionar mucho más rápido y mucho más ágilmente, y sobre todo sin ponerle barreras a algo que en la cocina, aunque nos parezca mentira, cuando hablamos de innovación muchas veces se produce desde entrada rechazo. Cuando hablamos de creatividad, porque se producen ciertos rechazos en la sociedad en general. Mira si ponemos a lo mejor en la fachada del restaurante, estoy pensando en la palabra adecuada, ¿no? Pero normalmente mi restaurante es un restaurante de cocina creativa.
Sí.
¿No? Y bueno, creativa pues está bastante bien vista. Pero si pusiéramos arriba cocina de diseño, teniendo en cuenta que el diseño es tan importante en la vida, en todo, desde el teléfono, en el diseño de todo lo que nos rodea, si pusiéramos sobre Quique Dacosta cocina de diseño, posiblemente sería la mejor manera de espantar a los clientes de la puerta de mi restaurante. Pero bueno, yo creo que la cocina en sí misma atrae. En este extraordinario escenario de la mesa, a la mayor parte de la sociedad nos gusta sentarnos, ya no solamente para nutrirnos, sino para disfrutar. También es una manera de conocer el lugar en el que estás, sentado a la mesa. Por lo menos yo lo utilizo como herramienta, como bien te decía antes, o como creo bien te decía antes, la Comunidad Valenciana, donde tengo mi restaurante, en Denia, ahí no había posibilidad, no había histórico de alta gastronomía, sí de buena cocina, pero no de alta gastronomía hace tan solo 30 años, y poder contar desde ahí las singularidades de mi territorio para mí es algo determinante, porque me une de dos maneras. A las personas que vienen de cualquier lugar del mundo a vivir esta experiencia, pues me encuentran a mí y encuentran un territorio, y a la gente de mi entorno ve como, con orgullo, ven como la alta cocina, desde su territorio se puede hacer alta cocina 3 estrellas Michelin. Y aflora un sentimiento de pertenencia y de orgullo, porque al final también es importante que en un mundo donde parece que todo está dogmatizado y está centralizado y venimos de una cocina, pues la alta cocina, tenemos que reconocerlo, viene de Francia, entendida como tal. Sin embargo, una de las singularidades que tiene la cocina española es que ha querido intencionalmente separarse, no apaleando a la madre, avalándola, diciendo que somos hijos de ella, pero sin embargo buscando nuestra personalidad.
Eso que dices es súper inspirador y no te imaginas lo similar que es al mundo de la tecnología. Como también lo es lo que has dicho antes, que esto no va de OES, que no es esto o lo otro, que va de IES, que es sumar y agregar. ¿Qué papel juega la tecnología para vosotros, si es que juega alguno?
Bueno, en este tiempo seguramente en agilidad a todos los niveles. Yo haría una pregunta, seguramente a todos los que están aquí y que miraran en su cocina tradicional, la cocina de casa, perdón, y que me dijeran desde una perspectiva analítica cuál es el último aparato disruptivo, nuevo, que ha entrado en sus cocinas. O sea, si entendemos la tecnología como esos aparatos que nos ayudan a hacer las cosas más fáciles, tengo que reconocer que la tecnología contemporánea en las cocinas, domésticas o profesionales, nos han ayudado a ser más perfectos, a que se limpie mejor la cocina, a que se cocine más rápido y más perfectamente. Sin embargo, el último aparato nuevo, desde una perspectiva disruptiva, que entra en mi cocina y se me supone un restaurante de cocina de vanguardia, posiblemente no entró nada absolutamente nuevo hace 30 años. Porque cualquiera me diría, bueno, el microondas, la Thermomix, la inducción, todo esto ya existía antes. Lo que ha hecho la tecnología ahora es, si queréis, perfeccionar todos estos aparatos. Antes se pesaba de una manera, ahora tenemos otro tipo de básculas, tenemos otra manera de medir las temperaturas, los hornos son más perfectos, pero todas estas tecnologías existían. Yo creo que han entrado dos nuevas tecnologías a la cocina, a la alta cocina y a la cocina en general, que difícilmente en los próximos 50 años veremos en ninguna cocina doméstica, que básicamente estamos hablando de impresoras 3D y troqueladoras, ya sean por láser o manuales. Son los dos únicos aparatos que yo encuentro nuevos y que no existían en la alta cocina, ni en la cocina en general. Y, por lo tanto, si yo tengo que decirle algo a la industria de la tecnología, es que ayude de una manera más eficiente y más eficaz a que la alta cocina y la cocina doméstica, porque a la cocina doméstica se le ayuda con poco. Quiero decir, pues una máquina donde pones el café y te sale más perfecto, controlado el tiempo, el agua y la temperatura, ya te ha ayudado, porque antes teníamos que poner la cafetera de émbolo y todo esto. Ya nos ayudan en casa, nos mejoran la vida. Sí. Pero en un país o en una industria como la nuestra, se ha revolucionado más gracias al conocimiento y al ingenio que a la tecnología, aunque tengo que decir que la tecnología nos ha ayudado a ser más perfectos.
Eso que dices está muy bien, y es todo un reto. Entonces, cuando sumamos, y con lo que decías, el ingenio y la creatividad, ¿también combinamos lo global y lo local? Lo que has dicho de proyectar y poner a Denia en el mapa y a la Comunidad Valenciana y hacer alta cocina en un sitio donde no había, me parece súper inspirador. ¿Nos basamos en lo local o combinamos global y local?
Y, acuérdate del li, no el o. Yo tengo una misión que es hablar de mi territorio. Mi territorio es un territorio que no se había contado en la alta cocina nunca, como decía antes. Soy un polo de atracción para que la gente venga a vivir la experiencia, pero al mismo tiempo se quedan disfrutando de las tradiciones de mi territorio. Pero esto que yo planteo, lo planteo cocinando con productos de 50 kilómetros a la redonda, más o menos, en un 70 o un 80%. Esto me vale a mí. Yo tengo 3 estrellas, de las mismas 3 estrellas que tiene David Muñoz, que estuvo aquí ayer con vosotros. Sin embargo, David Muñoz, que hace cocina de vanguardia extraordinaria y que se apoya en el producto local del país, sin embargo, su mirada es mucho más cosmopolita. Obviamente, está en Madrid. Madrid es una ciudad cosmopolita. Por lo tanto, lo que él refleja es el reflejo natural de lo que es la Madrid contemporánea. Y yo reflejo el reflejo contemporáneo de una Denia que quiere abrirse al mundo, que tiene una historia por contar y que me permite decirle a la gente de dónde vengo, dónde estoy y hacia dónde me proyecto como ser humano y como cocinero. Por lo tanto, los dogmas en esto de la cocina no valen.
Creo que tenemos mucho que aprender de ti, de vosotros en general, del mundo de la cocina. Déjame preguntarle a Kristian si quiere demostrar su español.
Sí. Hemos hablado del problema de talento en la industria de telecomunicaciones y me pregunta a ti, Quique, ¿qué es la situación en tu industria y particularmente cómo identificas el talento que es perfecto para ti y también qué haces para asegurar que están mejorando sus competencias cuando trabajan?
Yo tengo 12 restaurantes en el Reino Unido, en España, y en cada lugar me encuentro, en cada modelo de negocio, porque no todos son de alta cocina, me encuentro circunstancias similares o diferentes. Pero lo que sí que es verdad que, por ejemplo, los restaurantes con estrella Michelin, tengo la suerte de que no elijo, casi me eligen a mí. Okay. El talento viene a mí porque se nutre o cree desarrollarse su carrera profesional con lo que yo planteo. También ahí se generan unas expectativas y la gente viene. Por lo tanto, si hay talento extraordinario en el mundo, ya sea en la sala de sommelería, en la pastelería, en la gestión, en los recursos humanos, en la investigación, normalmente ellos suelen postular por trabajar conmigo. ¿Qué sucede en la industria global? O sea, cuando vas bajando en la pirámide y te vas encontrando modelos de negocio diferentes. Pues como está pasando en la mayor parte de los sectores y sobre todo en los oficios, no solamente falta mano de obra, sino que falta el talento entendido, que seguramente es una reflexión que la industria tiene que hacer, entendido o equilibrándolo con las situaciones sociales que estamos viviendo.
Exacto.
Porque al final la cocina siempre ha estado con una mirada muy de echar horas, por decirlo de alguna manera, que seguramente todos en nuestros puestos de trabajo echamos horas, pero nosotros hemos tenido la lupa. Y de alguna manera tenemos que equilibrar cómo las necesidades sociales de las personas quieren y necesitan para vivir hoy, con ese talento amoldado a ese tipo de trabajo concreto y a esas horas concretas. No sé si me explico, pero lo que es verdad es que nuestra industria es una especie de autopista, por poner una metáfora, de 3 carriles de ida y 3 de vuelta. Sí. No paran de abrirse restaurantes, no paramos de buscar el ocio en la cocina, en los restaurantes, en los hoteles, no paramos de viajar, no paramos de visitar, pero por el otro lado tenemos la autopista que viene a tanta velocidad o más, con falta de recursos humanos, con gente que quiere vivir la vida como los que van en este carril igual, que quieren cobrar más, estos quieren pagar menos, estos quieren ganar más. Bueno, y estas 2 autopistas, ¿no?, son la autopista de mi industria. Sí. Y seguramente también es verdad, y seguramente que en la vuestra también, y en España concretamente, nosotros, por mucho que representemos un porcentaje importante del PIB de nuestro país, no tenemos abastecimiento universitario suficiente que nutra de talento y conocimiento básico a nuestra industria. Por lo tanto, se producen desequilibrios, ¿no?
Eso es. Muy bien, gracias.
El paralelismo con nuestra industria es increíble. Creo que pensamos que nuestros problemas son solo nuestros y es fantástico aprender de alguien como tú que en realidad los problemas son muy parecidos. Es súper inspirador.
Lo que sí que está claro es que los problemas y las situaciones son globales al mismo tiempo, si las queremos ver así. El hacha tardó en llegar de Asia a Europa 1700 años. Hoy tengo que tener cuidado de no publicar una receta mía en redes sociales porque antes de ponerla yo en mi restaurante ya la están haciendo en China. Esta no está bien.
Muchísimas gracias.
Un placer.
Quique. Muchas gracias.
Gracias, Quique. So, I actually got a bit hungry already.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, this opened the appetite, right? So we're going to move on to a panel now, where you're going to have the chance to listen to some of our board members about their experience in TIP, why they are on the board, why they believe in TIP, and also some of the board dynamics, what's really going on behind the door at the board, and hopefully you get some of that mood that is going on. So I think it will be interesting.
Yeah, no, let's see. And I think it's also important that we keep in mind that whatever we do as a community, we need to make sure that the results really are carried on into the execution. So I think the board members have a lot to tell about how they really kind of assure that the results come to the benefit of everybody of this great community. So let's see, we just need to get the chairs organized and we will continue.
Very good. So without further ado, let me welcome to stage Iran and Samira. Welcome.
Welcome.
Hey, man.
Welcome,
hey guys.
Please, take a seat. How are you guys?
Doing
Feeling
well.
great.
My microphone's working.
Your microphone works.
I didn't disaggregate it.
Yeah. well, you did better than I did so far. So yeah, well done.
Let's see if I can keep it up, though.
And
So-
I'm jet lagged, so hi everyone.
So Iran, you sit at the board, but maybe you want to introduce Samira first.
Sure. So Samira is a colleague of mine, of course. She leads our partnerships team that works with telecom technology companies. Also interacts with connectivity service providers around the world, and she'll talk a little bit about how we're thinking about the future as we get into the conversation.
So tell me, why was Meta a founding member of TIP? What was in it for you?
Yeah, so the story actually starts with the Open Compute project, which I imagine folks here may be familiar with. Meta designed its own hardware about 12, 13 years ago for the data center. And Meta did this because we realized that by disaggregating the data center hardware, we were able to iterate on it and deploy it in a more efficient way for our workloads. As OCP started getting momentum and the industry got behind this notion of disaggregating technology, we got reach out from a number of folks in the telecom industry, both on the technology side as well as the service provider side, who were curious to do the same thing, and were wondering if we'd be willing to help them do this. Being that all of our applications ultimately flow through telecom networks to our users, this made a lot of sense, and we decided to jump right in.
But around disaggregation is a lot more complex in telcos, isn't it?
Certainly, and we learned that pretty quickly. I think there was a lot of skepticism, honestly, to begin with, on whether or not you could do something like this in telecom. And there were certainly a lot of even basic engineering challenges to boot that we just didn't face in the data center. The data center being a contained environment when it came to things like thermals, dealing with humidity or water exposure, even electromagnetic interference, we had a lot more liberty in being able to deal with that and handle that.
Yeah, definitely. When you build telco solutions, there's many interoperability, safety, regulatory issues that have to be taken into consideration that are a lot simpler in the data center space. That said, looking around this room, this event looks like little by little the TIP dream became a reality.
I think so.
Would
you say that?
Yes, I would say that.
So following on that, Eran, so far, I mean, looking at it from Meta's perspective, what could be some of the most impactful TIP initiatives so far from your perspective?
Yeah, so thinking about the last 6.5 years that TIP has been around, I think the thing that stands out is really the breadth and depth of the portfolio. So Open RAN, Open Wi-Fi, OOPT, and a lot of other project groups. I think Open RAN is certainly the highlight, if you will, the main focus and progression area that this community has gotten behind. And by the way, it's great to be here with ORAN and show the community how aligned these two foundations are on the topic. I think for TIP specifically with Open RAN, the things that I would point to that have been very impactful and I think helpful for the community is the roadmap release process, the test and validation that you spoke towards, and also the marketplace, TIP Exchange, that really highlights and provides the visibility to everybody in the community on what work was done, what level of validation was achieved, and what products are available. The other thing I should mention on Open RAN is it's really great to see the size of the technology provider community growing, and specifically folks like Dell, Fujitsu, NEC getting involved in the recent years and really propelling forward the impact of this community.
Yeah, the number of companies that are contributing to Open RAN continues to increase, which is fantastic, but there's still a lot of work to be done.
Certainly a lot of work to be done, as we saw yesterday and we spoke today, but I think we're on a very strong path forward. It's also worth mentioning OOPT, which has really been on a tear when it comes to providing solutions for backhaul technologies. The level of adoption and deployment is really robust from the solutions provided from that technology group. And by the way, congratulations on the announcement today.
Thank you.
Clearly the momentum continues. And I also just want to mention real quick Open Wi-Fi, which just last week received a couple of awards from the WBA around Best Innovation, Best Network Technology. I think that project group is clearly on the rise. And so a lot of impact, really, I think, over the past 6.5 years and across a range of technologies that are used in the telecom networks.
Yeah, and the Open Wi-Fi is a great example of the type of innovations that the TIP community brings forward across the industry.
Absolutely.
Yes, indeed, I would agree. So maybe tell us a bit about the dynamics at the board. I mean, like people don't know what happens, like with the group of people who are actually, not running the show, but at least leading it, or under the illusion of leading.
Supporting for sure, definitely.
Do you have some anecdote that you want to mention?
Yeah, so first I should say, I think we have a lot of fun together, and I think we witnessed it this week. It's really a pleasure being on the board, working with the people that are on the board, and I think we all bring the priority of the community to the work that we do at the board. So of course we represent our companies, but we first and foremost represent the interest of the community, and I think you can see it in how we interact. One of the anecdotes that I want to mention from before my days as a TIP board member, but what I think was really the most important turning point in the progression of TIP was the announcement of the Open RAN project group in late 2007. And I think, initially there was a lot of skepticism, again, about whether or not something like this can be done and whether or not the industry will come along. And I think the way Vodafone and Telefonica stepped in and really led the direction there is the spark that propelled TIP, and I think has brought us to where we are today. So that's my favorite moment so far in the history of TIP.
Very good.
Samira, from my perspective, you work with the service providers, with the operators, you kind of see what's happening in the industry at large. What would you say would be kind of some of the most important areas and main opportunities for TIP to impact the industry going forward?
Yeah, great question. I think all the current focus areas that Aran mentioned are a great start. But in my mind, the greatest impact that the TIP community can drive really hinges on the support from the operators to deploy Open RAN and other TIP projects at scale. The core mission of this community is about driving adoption of disaggregated telco technologies at scale. So that's what I would say is the highest impact. In terms of looking ahead, for me personally, I'm most excited about the Metaverse Networks project group that was launched last week with a great set of partners, including Microsoft, Telefonica, Sparkle, what am I forgetting? T-Mo. And while metaverse experiences, the fully immersive metaverse experiences on AR glasses are a few years out, there's still a lot of opportunity for us to come together as a community and sort of work on the challenges to pave the path towards the metaverse.
Yeah, and I think it's really worth noting that from my perspective, I'm excited about the diversity of perspectives that we're going to see in this project group. And as an example, Microsoft joining in and providing a view on the application and use case that we may perceive in the metaverse alongside Meta, I think brings a lot of credibility and ensures that we have a comprehensive view of the approach we're taking forward and that we really have a full community behind us as we progress.
Yeah, totally. A community approach will only work if all the key stakeholders are coming together and collaborating from all sides towards a common goal. For this particular project group, the team, the members are working towards defining how we talk about and how we measure quality of experiences for the metaverse. And then once we align on the right terminology and the measurement methodologies, then we have a solid foundation to drive discussions about how the networks will have to evolve over time to become metaverse ready.
Totally.
Yeah.
That's a really interesting angle. So is that what's in it for you? So as a business, what does TIP have to do with the metaverse? Why do you need TIP for rolling it on?
Yeah, great question. So I think it's worth highlighting again that the road to the metaverse is going to be a long journey. And there's a lot that we need to learn all together over the next decade or so as metaverse takes shape. Now, for the foreseeable future, what we do know is that most immersive metaverse applications and use cases will primarily evolve on the in-home Wi-Fi rather than mobile networks. But while metaverse on AR glasses over mobile networks is still a few years out, there is opportunity for us to learn from the quality of applications, quality of experience for the popular and more demanding applications of today. Some examples that come to mind would be real-time video streaming, cloud gaming, multi-user conference calling, and so on. So we can learn from the quality of experience for these use cases and then drive insights around what are the key critical network performance KPIs that can drive the optimal user experience for metaverse and for AR and other metaverse applications that will sort of emerge in the future. The reason we come to TIP is that we believe these are complex problems that Meta cannot solve alone. And the only way for us to solve for them would be to hold hands with our industry partners and join forces to drive common standards, the right ways of interoperability measurements, and so on, so that we can bring meaningful innovations to market. And then especially as we transition to the next era of compute platforms.
Yeah, I would definitely emphasize that if we don't have an aligned industry, we as Meta won't be successful in our mission, and nor will be all the other companies and entities that are participating in progressing this vision and building towards the metaverse.
Yeah, so going back to your question, Yago, like why we look at TIP. TIP is the primary community that we lean into as we prepare the networks for the metaverse.
And the thing
That's a lot of pressure.
The thing I would also add there is it really does bring full circle, I think, our journey over this past 6.5 years in TIP. I think we clearly see here the incubation phase of TIP has passed us. And what this really means is that for a company like Meta, we have an opportunity to bring the use cases, the experiences that we work on, that we deliver to this community and help develop the telecom infrastructure technologies to support it. So again, really excited to be able to do this in this community, really excited to have the foundation that we get to stand on to start talking about next generation experiences. And yeah, looking forward to the future.
Yeah, and we welcome the opportunity from you, no pressure, and everybody in the industry to come join us as we build for the metaverse.
We're fine with pressure. Really exciting. Thank you so very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Yago. Thank you, Kristian.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Awesome.
you, Samira. Thank you,
Thanks,
Aaron.
Kristian.
That was quite something.
Yeah. Wow. Let's continue.
Yeah, let's continue. So we have members also from Dell and Intel I want to invite to stage. So Caroline, Scott, Ihab, please join us.
Hello.
Welcome.
Sir?
Hey, Scott.
Welcome.
Okay.
You don't sit beside me. You sit at the end.
You're going to let me sit in the chair?
No.
You can sit beside
It's a
Caroline.
cushion.
I'm too short. Sorry. Welcome. So Ihab and Caroline, they sit at the board in TIP with me, also with Kristian. But maybe Ihab, you want to introduce Scott first of all?
Yeah. Well, hi, everybody. Thanks for having us on the stage. Scott Cohen leads all the business for us in terms of the sales activities for the telco team. It's a big investment we made. He came on board about, what, a year and a half ago?
2.5.
2.5, oh my God.
I'm glad I made an impression.
Exactly. But he built a whole team, and we're much more focused on operators and how we help them with Scott on board. So I asked him to join me in this discussion.
Thank you for that. So maybe to continue with you guys. So what attracted Dell to TIP?
What? I'm sorry?
What attracted Dell to TIP? Why is Dell?
Yeah, absolutely. So we joined TIP specifically to be able to come very close to the operators and also our technology partners in terms of supporting this new ecosystem. I think everybody knows that the industry is making a big shift to cloud, telco cloud, and also disaggregated software, and all these need technology solutions. We're already a very big technology supplier to every operator out there around the world, but these new capabilities that we talked about here requires new technology solutions and new products, which is something we're investing in, not only from the sales, but from engineering and development and R&D in a very big way. This requires new compute solutions, requires new storage, requires networking, and now we're seeing a lot more of requests for AI and acceleration as part of that. So we just want to be very close to the community and be an active member and be in a two-way discussion with operators and partners and to drive the development that's needed to support it. I think the simplest way to put it, without the IT solutions that are needed to deploy all this disaggregated ecosystem that we talk about here, it wouldn't be possible. It wouldn't happen. And we want to be helping, and we want to be able to solve some of those issues.
Caroline, you are a well-known figure in the industry. You see, not just in TIP, but in other organizations, what's happening in our ecosystem. So how would you state, where are we on that marathon to actually transform the industry to open and disaggregated? Can you share your reflections?
So I have the honor to be one of the founding members of TIP, and I also have the honor to be the longest-serving director of TIP, probably the oldest. So I have to say that when we first started TIP, this is Yago and Kristian before you joined us, it felt like we have this passion and mission, but we are not rowing the boat in the same direction. Some people paddle this way, some people paddle that way. The first few years was a little rough. It felt like a startup.
Yeah.
And I have to say, and I told Yago privately too, when you came on, you really started setting the direction, and you gave us some tough love. You have looked at us going like, do your shit, you're not doing the right thing. So I think we are now finally, the last few years, I feel like we are on this boat, we are rowing in the same direction, the same pace. And we have a mission to drive a brand new network. I then remember the mission that we wrote down at the time. The 4 or 5 founding members wrote down is, we have to change the trajectory of telco. That the telco cannot be the one that simply pave a network without necessarily getting paid the right way. How do we revolutionize such that we are the stakeholders of the future? Because connectivity is the fabric, is the backbone of the internet industry. And how do we do that? I think that is now fully baked in our mission, fully baked in almost every directors. I have to say, because I haven't talked to everybody, that this is our mission. With that mission in mind, under Yago and under Kristian, I think we are really in a pace that past incubation, going into execution, especially when you look at Open RAN, where we are Open RAN, look at Metaverse Ready Network Working Group, which it just completely blew my mind that we are where we are today. And what we announced with the O-RAN Alliance yesterday, we could not probably have done it. So as someone that has been this since the very beginning, I'm very, very excited to see this.
I have to give it back to you. I didn't do anything, and I don't put them under pressure. I think we make a phenomenal team. I am really proud of the team we make at the board, of the people that you can see here today, and also the people who couldn't be here today. But I think we're a great team, honest, transparent, with very low politics, all very passionate and determined to make TIP a success. So my job is really easy, and I don't really give pressure to anybody, I think. But I didn't know that. But yes, you are the longest serving, so you must have a lot of anecdotes and memorable moments. You want to share some, if possible, the most politically incorrect one that you can remember?
You just pretty much took out all the examples I had in mind.
Do we have enough time? Is that enough time for you to cover all this?
No, but one thing I would say that the very, very first meeting I remember was Dr. Alex Choi. We were actually in Seoul, and he took us to the top of the SKT tower. Ironically, we all sat down, and he served us one of the best Chinese banquet in Seoul, Korea, which I'm looking at it going like, is this happening to me? But in that meeting, what he would say to us is that, look, this is something we're trying to do. I don't think the industry agree with everything we're about to do. Because we're trying to disaggregate, we're trying to change, and some people would be very uncomfortable. And I remember raising my hand, go, oh yeah, I think that's the reason why we're doing it, is by ourselves, whether it's you or me or just SKT, or people will be a little pissed. But when we all together doing it, and the fact that, I remember at the time I said, we need more people to join us. And when you do cross-industry, cross-geographic, at that time, people, the pissing factor will still be there, but they realize the people that are doing the pissing are much broader. It's not just one silicon company, one operator, right? I remember saying that, people just like keep on eating and drinking, and nobody would pay attention to me. And I kept saying, hey, did you hear me? But we are. Did I cross a line? I hope I did.
No, not yet.
Yeah.
So finally, right now I'm looking across. We have you, we have most of the operator, and we just got MTN to join us. Now we got a different continent, and I think I am at a place that I feel so comfortable and energized at the direction that we're heading to. And I can swear to you, next year when we're back here on the same stage, you ask me the same question, the answer will be much, much better and much more polished, because now we are in a space that we can really fire with all engines.
Very good.
I had a question to Scott. I mean, as you are out there also driving the business strategy, and I'm sure also involved in sales work, from the perspective of Dell and your participation in TIP, how do you actually get the benefit into your strategic work and your actual daily business out of your company's participation?
Yeah, I'll tell you, the timing of this conference is spot on. And there's never been a greater need in this industry for the O-RAN Alliance and TIP to come together as a single entity to drive us toward a common mission. The energy in the market around what we're trying to achieve, open, disaggregated networks, is massive. I will tell you, having been in this industry for 30 years, this quite possibly could be the most exciting time we've seen. The question, though, is how do we actually get telcos to consume open? And right now, it's a huge question. With the exception of Vodafone and a couple others, the vast majority of operators are looking at the solution saying, high interest around all the benefits we talked about yesterday, but no path for them to actually deploy it and execute it in their networks. And I think the mission of all of us is to help them find a path. Dish Networks, who's a US-based greenfield open operator who's deploying a disaggregated network, they almost missed a critical deadline earlier this year. And Charlie Ergen, who's the chairman of Dish, came out with a quote. And his quote was, "We underestimated the challenge of being our own SI. Until we figure that out, open, what we're trying to do here, is not consumable." So the timing on this is perfect, and we've got to figure this out.
Good one.
Absolutely.
So related to that, Ihab, I mean, apart from a great board member and a great executive, you're also known to be a great mentor. So what would be your coaching advice for companies maybe new to TIP or wanting to engage, but they don't know where to start or how to actually make the most of it?
Yeah, that's a very good question. And I think you put it well, Yago. It's not a one-time change. It's a journey. I think that's the first thing I would say. And also, there's a whole new set of skill set that don't exist in most companies that they have to build for. But here is the most positive, encouraging piece. This journey was already taken by many others. The operators are just following what enterprises already did, what the retail industry already did. It's the whole digital transformation and transformation to cloud. So this is the discussion that we had yesterday on Telco Cloud, and also the discussion about all the different software stacks. Enterprises already took that journey. They already had to go to DevOps, CI/CD, how do you deploy compute in clusters, how you add your storage, manage your data, add AI ops, automate your business. These are very basic capabilities. What's really exciting about TIP is that the application was missing. So the stuff Yago talked about yesterday was very exciting to me, and all the different logos that you saw from Kristian before. Now we have the application that consumes that. So the most important thing is to start the journey one step at a time, add the skills and capabilities. There's no really end to that journey. It's more about transforming to the future of a telco cloud.
Fantastic. I have a question that is both first to Caroline and then further to eHub, but I'll let Caroline start. Yesterday, in some of the panels, there was a discussion about the supply chain. And one of the arguments for driving towards open and disaggregated is to create more optionality, alternatives, security in the supply chain. So, Caroline, you represent one of those big companies that actually is providing a lot of the input for designing those products. So is the supply chain, when we move to open and disaggregated, is it ready to execute and deliver?
I think we are. So lately, there's a lot of conversation about supply chain security, stability. Certainly, it has been challenging for the all industry and not just Intel. But if you look at the history of how we supply to the cloud, how the diversity of that far exceed what we're doing with network. And I do believe the effort that a lot of the operator, a lot of ecosystem sitting here has put in, and what we are doing, it TIP together to put the blueprint, the recipe together, is at a point that allow us to ramp and scale to get to the point that where cloud has been.
Yeah. What I would also add is that today most of the operators have to take what's designed for enterprise and make it work, in this new software world. But we ourselves, with Caroline and many other companies, we're really investing a lot of time in new products that are specifically fit for operators that have operational efficiency, extended temperature, ranges, font I/O, the ability to just slide different CPU options in the same chassis. So there's so much investment that's happening to create the ability for the operators to take advantage of everything, let's say, Intel produces. It's not an easy path today. You need a lot of smart people to figure out how to connect the dots. But there's definitely a wave in the industry. We ourselves are investing a lot in that. That is creating new products, capabilities. I think the most exciting thing to me, I can tell you, and it really, what gives me the energy here, is this community here will be able to get time to market CPU when it shows up, which they don't get today. Today, it takes maybe 2 years to see it, and then, remember we talked about this whole food analogy, you're forced to eat the cereal that was put in front of you. What's happening is all the investment and scale in products and all the development by the bigger community, you heard from many of them yesterday, is going to give this community a lot of options to be able to scale significantly at an efficient operational model, which is what everybody wants here.
Fantastic. Really good. I think on that note, we can probably call it a panel. And thank you so very much. You make working fun, guys. Thank you.
Yeah,
it's really fun.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Scott.
Yes, sir.
Good job, Yago.
Scott.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Wow, what a board we have. And also the people that are working with them to make things happen.
Indeed.
We are actually taking a small move now from talking about, let's say, the supply chain, companies, board members, to actually looking at the community from a different angle. And that different angle is that how does the work that TIP does, how does that impact ecosystems in specific countries? And we have a particular highlight and a country that has been doing what I think at least all things right, and that is Indonesia. So Mathur from the TIP team, our global head of engagement, will come and introduce that session, and that gives the opportunity for Yago and myself to go and have a glass of water.
Or a coffee. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Morning, everybody. Good morning, Fyuz. Come on, thank you very much. I love the fact that Yago left with work is fun. Today, I would like to inspire you with a fantastic case study of work that TIP is doing with the Indonesian government and the operators in Indonesia, as well as a wide ecosystem. Okay, production team, run away with the video, please, first. Thank you.
Indonesia is a diverse...
Thank you, Caroline. Hi, I'm Rob Soni, VP of RAN Technology at AT&T.
Indonesia is a diverse archipelago country that is optimistic about building its future, with digital transformation being one of the main pillars in realizing the nation's vision. The Indonesian Ministry of ICT, Kominfo, as one of the mandate holders, has implemented a number of strategic policies and programs to accelerate Indonesia's digital transformation, with a focus on resolving ICT infrastructure, ensuring effective and efficient data usage, ensuring the availability of digital applications and platforms, and continuously developing digital talent. Kominfo also collaborates with connectivity stakeholders and the community in this regard, including the Telecom Infra project, TIP. TIP initiative in Indonesia is the first country-level ecosystem program centered at Telkom University and specifically designed to support the supply and demand development of open and disaggregated technologies. It is built with 5 key pillars: build awareness, testing and validation, trials and deployments, talent development and capacity building, and local manufacturing initiative. Collaboration with Indonesia's TIP community is now a thriving and fruitful one. As the program approaches its 2nd year, it has achieved several accomplishments, including increasing people's awareness of open and disaggregated network architecture. Over 400 people have taken part in the Open RAN training program, which was developed in collaboration with Kominfo, and creating a roadmap for the implementation and local manufacturing of Open RAN, led by Kominfo and in collaboration with the ecosystem partner in Indonesia.
As a vast archipelagic nation with more than 17,000 islands and 275 million citizens, Indonesia faces different development gaps that need to be closed. Digital infrastructure development as a foundation has been held aggressively in the past few years to provide the connectivity needed to serve the nation equally in coverage, quality, and affordability. The National Digital Transformation Strategies focus on the transformation in governance and regulations, the digital economy, and digital society. Research and development in digital technology are essential in achieving Indonesia's ambitions to be winner in its market. I deeply appreciate the Telecom Infra project, TIP, and Telecom University collaboratively creating TIP Community Lab in Bandung City in 2020. The lab is expected to be home to new technology innovations and commercializations. The missions to achieve the national sovereignty in the future lies in the success of digital transformation in every sector. Continuous and sustainable collaborations as TIP and Telecom University has already started. Collaborative, supportive engagement from TIP global community is also sought to enrich and enhance the accelerations of digital transformations in Indonesia. Simultaneously, allow Indonesia to support the global digital transformations movement.
With this initiative and collaboration, the Indonesia TIP program is expected to eventually foster the development of open technology ecosystems in Indonesia, drive local innovation, accelerate digital transformation, and improve the nation's socio-economic development.
A very inspiring video and a very inspiring story for many governments as well as industry players. So we have done a deep dive program after the Prime Minister Jokowi's 5-step plan had come about. I'd like to invite our first speaker, the Director of Standardization at Cominfo, Director Mulyadi. Please give a warm welcome.
Hello, good morning.
Thank you, Director. Please take a seat. So, Director Mulyadi, I would like to just ask you the first question, actually, if I may. So how do you see the Indonesian TIP program progressing, especially in terms of helping Indonesia's digital transformation objectives?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Vishal Mathur. Good morning, everybody. I'm glad to be here with you to share Indonesian experience regarding to develop Indonesian digital ecosystem collaboration with the TIP. One of Indonesian digital transformation program is to prepare digital talent and digital ecosystem. And we see the TIP program is in line with the Indonesian digital transformation program. TIP has a program to encourage the development of digital talent and digital ecosystem in Indonesia. And in Indonesia, TIP program is supported by multiple stakeholders, including government, all our mobile network operator,
yes,
manufacturers, vendors, system integrator, and also academic institution. And this collaboration that we call quad helix collaboration is a good collaboration model because we work together to achieve our common goals. And with the program that has already been implemented, we have seen a significant increasing in community awareness. And we expect TIP and Telecom University to become great partners to our local community and become a driving force for ecosystem development in Indonesia.
Fantastic. That's very good news. I'm really glad to hear that we've progressed so far already. And ladies and gentlemen, you saw on the video that talent development is a part of the agenda here. And Cominfo has set up a digital talent scholarship program in conjunction with TIP, Telecom University as well. Actually, Director Mulyadi, could you tell me a little bit more about that and how is it really growing, particularly in Open RAN as well?
Okay, yes, the Digital Talent Scholarship is one of our ministry's strategic program to support Indonesian digital transformation. And based on a study, we estimate that 2030, Indonesia will lack a digital talent, around 600,000 to 1.2 million digital experts will lack it. Therefore, since several years ago, Ministry has had a digital talent scholarship program. This program aims to prepare and develop local talents in digital technology. In this year, Ministry will conduct digital training for 200,000 participants. And Open RAN training is one of the digital talent scholarship program. This training is conducted in partnership with the TIP, Telecom University, and Ministry. The Open RAN training was launched in 2021 and was attended by over 400 participants. And it was conducted online due to the pandemic situation. The training structure was 30% theoretical and 70% practical. The TIP Community Lab in Indonesia has been used to support hands-on training, so the trainees can access remotely. And as the implementation of Open RAN accelerates, this program is critical to ensuring that local resources are ready to support Open RAN operation. Yes, we hope this training can produce Indonesia digital talent in Open RAN technology and can support Indonesia Digital Transformation Program.
Wonderful. That's really good news. And ladies and gentlemen, not to plug it too much, but you know, Kristian talked about TIP Academy, which is designed by the industry for the industry and has an Open RAN curriculum. What we're doing is really excited about leveraging the TIP Community Lab in Telecom University as the fulcrum and the place for driving grassroots talent and skills development from students to industry professionals to even government agencies as well. So far we've talked about ecosystem build, we've talked about skills and training and development. Director Mulyadi, let's now talk about Open RAN implementation. There is an implementation roadmap. Perhaps you can tell us a little bit more about how that is being supported through.
Okay, yeah, the Open RAN implementation roadmap is critical for developing demand in Indonesia mobile operators, as well as increasing the development of local manufacturers in Indonesia. The increasing demand will attract investment in developing the supply ecosystem, creating jobs, and lowering the cost. To achieve of these objectives, it is critical to establish demand and support for mobile operators. There are opportunities for demand creation, such as the first, there are approximately 1,600 sites in non-commercial area that we define 3 types area, such as frontier area, outermost area, and least developed area. This area can be potential site for 4G Open RAN implementation. And government has universal service obligation program to deploy 4G BTS in those area. And we are considering to implement Open RAN BTS in those area. And the second, with the upcoming deployment of 5G, there will be a numerous opportunity in the near future for Open RAN deployment. And as part of the roadmap preparation, discussion and public consultation with academia, operators, and other stakeholders are currently underway. Overall, this will help Indonesia accelerate its digital transformation, strengthen its position in the supply chain ecosystem, develop new talent, and ultimately improve the country's overall ability to drive a better future for Indonesia. Continuous support and collaboration of stakeholders is the key to success achieve the goal.
Very good. That's fantastic. So we've got ecosystem coming to the table, we've got talent development, and now we've got true implementation roadmap. As Director Mulyadi was saying, 1,620 sites out in rural Indonesia that has never had true 4G RAN is now being implemented with Open RAN. And there are other use cases coming about, whether it's private wireless networks, whether it's increasing transport capacity within the backbone of the infrastructure. I would say that this is a wonderful case study and perhaps something that other markets can look at in terms of a collaborative model between public sector and private sector as well. Director Mulyadi, thank you very much for your conversation, and thank you very much. Thank you. Please give a warm welcome. We're not finished. I've got a little bit of a bonus for all of you as well. It's great to hear about Indonesia as a potential case study, but let's take it to other countries. What can we learn for other countries that are still developing through their diversification agendas as well as ecosystem expansion opportunities? I'd like to invite on stage Ana Armas. She's the Telecom Director for Latin America at NTT Data. Please give a warm welcome to Ana. Hi, Ana.
Hi, Vish.
Lovely to meet you. Please take a seat. Thank you.
Thank you.
Fantastic. Ana, as I was saying to the audience, I mean, the case study for public-private collaboration And in Indonesia is very good. I mean, it's driving their digital transformation agenda. You work quite actively for entity data within the Latin American region, which is quite broad and diverse, I'm sure. But let's look at other similar market activities there. Take a 30,000 feet view, and perhaps you can give your sort of views on what the balance between governmental sort of opportunities are and private collaboration, joint working in Latin America. Your thoughts?
Yes. Thank you, Vish. Thank you all. Yes, as you mentioned, it is a group of countries, and we are very diverse. But when it comes to connectivity, we might be all in the same page. Mm-hmm. So the digital divide is big, and we are working on closing that. The thing is that all of the initiatives, as in Indonesia, as Dr. Mulyadi said, they come from governmental policies, probably, right, with a social sense out of it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And more and more, the private initiative, the balance is working great, and we are being part of it. So, for example, you can find cases, different cases, and for example, one where you can find the government developing some infrastructure that then a public CSP will exploit and operate, right? Mm-hmm. Then you can find cases, for example, in Mexico, where you find public bidding for funding a consortium, yep. A joint consortium between public and private, right? And of course, the spectrum is on the government side, but the private enterprise are in charge of exploring that with a committed roadmap and some sort of SLAs, right? So to give value to people. And then more recently, you can find in Peru cases where it is very interesting because it's actually a private CSP which is putting a legacy system up to use, which we have a lot of those still in Latin America.
Absolutely.
So they're putting that into use, and private enterprise are taking care of it, right? And developing more services and use cases, because what is the point of making connectivity if it's not can reach not only people, but it can be affordable and profitable, right?
Absolutely.
So you see three cases where you see different balance on each of them, but the common point here is that all of them are trying to build in a group, in a community. They're trying to build like this highway where maybe wholesalers can put services and others can compete over it. And develop different use cases and offering for the people.
Fantastic, great. So no one size fits all is the thing, but there are different models out there that you can see case studies for.
Correct.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. This makes a lot of sense. I guess if we take an industry perspective and entity data is a part of the ecosystem, you're a global system integrator, how can you benefit or work in this manner with a TIP ecosystem, vendors, startups, operators, etc., to really start to drive some spearhead work or really channel and stimulate the development of connectivity solutions?
Yeah, well, you disaggregate things and we put it back together, kind of. So we
it's
are
as simple as that.
Yeah, we are a global system integrator, and with that we try to echo the experience with the TIP and the work we are doing with the TIP. We are trying to echo those experiences into the CSPs and all the ecosystem that cannot be part of it, right? So our experience is mainly on translating that to that ecosystem. What we are doing is we are strongly developing a local practice that allows us, because it's not the same when you are trying to solve problems that you are not that related to. Right? So we are focusing on understanding the situation and try to work with the local ecosystem in a local way, sort of sense. So what we are doing is we develop solutions and even assets that we put at disposal, and based on whatever the tips, always, I mean, you're trying to accelerate the openness, the disaggregation. So we put that together in our practices, and we have developed not only projects together, but also with other parts of the ecosystem that maybe not here in the tip.
Fantastic.
In fact, we have released, you can check it on the booth, we have released a white paper specifically for this subject. I mean, how to work on the digital divide. Of course, more based on 5G. Maybe in Latin America, we need to understand how to operate. Our workload is more on operating than maybe evolve for the rural areas. But I think we're getting there.
Fantastic. That's very good. Thank you very much, Anna. We're nearly done, and I hope this was an interesting sort of path of how industry can stimulate and be fostered within countries. And at times, the government within those markets will have an agenda which is all about driving job creation, ecosystem development, skills development at grassroots level, but also connectivity for the citizens and businesses out there that need it. As we all know, I mean, TIP is there, as Kristian has already presented, a mechanism to draw in the ecosystem and mature solutions through, put them out there in the market such that companies like NTT Data that are focused on really developing and putting solutions where it's needed can take a solution stack with a number of vendors, etc. In all of this, governments are playing a role, and Indonesia is a great example of having moved from a low-key economy to a transforming economy where there is real GDP growth, and they are building domestic capacity now and taking it to other markets and showing a lot of interest to other governments in the region as well. So thank you very much, everybody. I hope that was an interesting interlude between the sessions that you're hearing at the moment. But I'm going to hand over back to our moderator and Kristian and go to the next session. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello again. We are going into yet another session with the companies represented on the board of TIP. Some cool people, as you will soon meet them. But before that, first of all, I wanted to introduce you to my partner in crime, Eugenia, our new CMO in TIP. Eugenia, how are things? How is Fyuz going?
Why are you asking me, Kristian? Let's ask our audience. So if you like the networking, clap. If you like the sessions, clap. If you like the food, stand up and go, woo!
I'm not sure about that.
Clap.
Let's clap. Okay, no, that is good, and I am actually slowly getting hungry, but before that, we still have a few things to do.
We have 2 sessions.
Exactly. So we are saving up for that.
And while they're getting ready the stage, I want to thank you for coming to Fyuz, supporting this event, because without you in our community, this would have been possible. So, round of applause for you. And now the stage is ready.
Yes. So we just in the previous session, we had the folks from Meta, Dell, and of course Caroline from Intel. Now we are getting the next crowd, which are representing the key organizations that are on the board. We have Andrea and Juan Carlos from Telefonica. We have Jean-Louis and Natusa from Orange. And we have Katja and Andreas from Deutsche Telekom. Let's take it away.
Yes, let's take it away. Welcome. So, I'm going to ask our panelists a very interesting question. And we're going to start with Katja.
No, with Andreas.
Or we're going to start with Andreas.
Yes, you like.
And we'll save the best for last. We'll save Katja for last. So, one question is, TIP been around for a few years, since 2016. So what's been your journey with TIP so far?
Yeah, so we joined TIP and we work in TIP because it's a great opportunity to collaborate with, especially with operators who share the same vision about the importance of disaggregation and the importance of working with an open community. And even more important, it is a group of operators that share the vision that we need to work differently in the market so that we make, or that we can make the disaggregation a real success. So we work in open Wi-Fi, in open optical, in open core, and a couple of other groups. And all those groups have different approaches, but if you look at the baseline, all of those groups look for a solution that brings us closer to a product, and that is the main differentiator. And let me share two examples. One is open Wi-Fi. So we are a co-chair of the open Wi-Fi group, and we develop, hopefully, and support the ecosystem there. On the other hand, we have taken already some software modules out of open Wi-Fi and bring them into production, into our real network that serves the residential customers. So that's a piece of software for the home network management. Or even more interesting, I think, is the success of OpenBNG, which is one part of the open optical. So here, a group of operators decided to go for a common specification. We agreed on a common specification, released that via a joint RFI, and that was A, a message to the market, and B, also important for us because we could learn what is going on at the market and where is the status for the software modules and for the hardware. And now we are at a level that the different operators can take different pieces and run the tests and the integration in their labs. And that is, I think, a big step forward. And again, an example how we can develop profound, sustainable roadmaps based on the ecosystem effort.
Ecosystem, I think this is really so apropos ecosystem.
Yeah.
I want to say hi from the I14Y lab in Berlin. And we are a consortium, including 3 major operators, and we really want to accelerate time to market for disaggregated telco system. And it's an open lab. Open lab is also, it's partially funded by the German Ministry of Digitalization and Transport. And we make available test setups, vendor neutral, of our reference architecture, which have been agreed among the operators. As I said, we're in Berlin, and here we also can, I think we can trace back our history to DT in Berlin, hosting a community lab for millimeter wave. And here it became clear, and it's also clear, that a community approach is vital, really to drive that forward, this network disaggregation. So this all led to the idea of the I14Y lab. And so last year we started in autumn. We already had our joint ORAN TIP Plugfest. And by the way, I mean, if I were on TV, I would say, hey, I send my regards to the guys in Berlin because currently the Plugfest is running and heard good results so far. And I think what is really important for our goal to accelerate the market readiness and also to avoid the fragmentation, it is important to combine the effort of TIP and other initiatives with the needs of the operators and the market participants. So we built upon your test plans, we adapted to our needs, and then, of course, provide interoperability and integration testing for those plans. And what is most important, the openness, that we share the results with the community. Yeah. And you know, just community, you know how it is, setting up a Plugfest, it never runs smoothly. In the very last minute, we had some issues, and this is really a good example for good friends, so to say. We just called Jalal in Menlo Park and said, hey, we have some issues. He said, yes, of course, we will help you. Equipment, skill set, whatsoever. This is how it works, and this is what we learned also from the last years. We need to work together and forget about boundaries.
Amazing, amazing. The three key words I heard from your speech: community, openness, and partnerships.
Yes.
Amazing. What about Telefónica, Juan Carlos?
Well, we have plenty of people and teams participating in project groups in TIP, no? But probably we are more active and taking a leadership role in open transport and fixed broadband. No? That is where probably we have our biggest contribution. For example, in IP, we are in IP and optical disaggregation. We are in many projects that are coming in, let's say, a kind of graduation phase, no? In which we are already going to commercial. And after doing all this testing, trialing, specification in TIP together with other operators, we have come to the next phase, no? And we have taken them to our procurement processes and show their technical maturity in the field. No? An example with IP, for instance, we started with simple transit routers, and we are progressively, coming to more massive equipment like the cell-site routers. No? We awarded them, for instance, in Peru very recently, and we have seen the economic feasibility and the technical maturity in the field, no? With this kind of equipment. In optical disaggregation, also we have been quite active. Okay, so we had first trials already in 2019 with Cassini terminals on an inline optical line system, and we tested there the data plane interoperability. That was fundamental to see that we could really use this as an alternative for supply. That was something very, very relevant for us. We have also done a lot of work and pushing hard one key project that is MAST, that is looking at the separation or disaggregation of control and data plane in the transport network. And here, I must say, this has been an example of collaboration in TIP. No? It was very easy for us, in weeks and months, to really get all the operators together, launch the group in TIP, prepare a roadmap and deliver every few months things with a very pragmatic approach. No? And that has been a value for us in really moving forward. MAST is providing us with the possibility to have a very simple routing fabric and facilitating the disaggregation, and also enabling the integration, facilitating the integration with the systems on top. No? And well, these are examples. No? We are also participating in solution groups like the 5G private networks, that is now in a second phase after the success and learnings that we made. And we are contributing now and increasing our participation in Open RAN activities based on the long experience we have on this matter. And probably, Andrea, you can tell us a bit more about it.
Yes, I think in our region, in Hispanoamerica and Telefónica, we have been key in the development of the Open RAN solutions in the Telefónica group. So we started back in 2017 with an initiative to provide connectivity in rural areas in Peru, together with Parallel Wireless. And this turned out in the end with a company that was launched in May 2019. The company is called Internet para Todos, meaning Internet for everyone. That is an open rural operator in Peru, started with a wholesale agreement with Telefónica at that time. And now, 3.5 years later, we are very proud to say that it's a full-blown rural operator that has wholesale agreements with 3 out of 4 operators in Peru, running 3,000 sites and connecting 2.5 million people in 13,000 villages. Which proves that the model is a success. Okay. Of course, when we started thinking about this, we thought it's so important to make things in a different way. And of course, Open RAN helped us to do that. Then, for instance, in Brazil, we did our first trial with Algestar and Mavenir solutions in 2019, 2020, and then in Argentina, we ran a pilot with Algestar in 2021. With that, Telefonica, with all that experience, Telefonica, used all this information to define and design a solution with Rakuten and NEC as an integrator that is being tested and deployed right now. So TIP has been the seed to help us grow all this experience, and it's a place that provides the environment so that we can move into a more industrialized place. I think in TIP, we have, together with the top 5 European operators, defined the technical requirements for Open RAN that can be used by all the vendors to focus and to orientate their portfolio, their roadmaps, and at the same time to help operators in their procurement decisions. So I think it's key. TIP is very instrumental in making this happen.
Oh, thank you for that. Well done, Telefonica. So the 3 keywords I'm hearing from your presentation, actually 4, Open RAN, Open Transport, interoperability, and deployments.
Yes.
Well done.
Thank
And
you.
now, last but not least, Orange. How did TIP help you on your open and disaggregated journey?
Yeah, actually, we are also active in TIP in several project groups, but from my side, I will focus more on our joint activities with TIP on Open RAN. So actually, we think that TIP plays an important role to bridge the gap between the specifications and, let's say, the product availability and what will be available in the market. Actually, Open RAN came with a promise of plug and play in the beginning, but we know that in reality it was a bit different. In the early days, it was more like, I would say, plug and pray rather than plug and play. But thanks to all of the efforts from the ecosystem, thanks to the standardization bodies, particularly ORAN Alliance, and all of these test and integration activities, we see that we are moving towards this objective of plug and play in the future. From our side, actually, in order to accelerate this evolution, we teamed up with other European operators, as Andreas said, and the objective was to rationalize the number of options that are available in the standards and prioritize a subset of them, the most important profiles for real deployment scenarios, and also the main requirements and use cases that are important for us, such as RAN sharing, network sharing. Actually, it's a bit more like moving from a kind of à la carte to a set menu with a reduced number of options and choices. And in this journey, TIP helped us by actually, they kept our prioritized requirements and they tried to gather the feedback from the whole industry, operators and vendors, and to push them into the product requirements and also let's say, in all of the test plans that are prepared. So and overall, all of these efforts helped us to achieve, actually, to be on a good track to achieve this plug-and-play promise of Open RAN. And if I want to focus more specifically on our journey towards Open RAN, so our journey started with specifically rural use case and RAN sharing. And we are working with TIP on this use case. And we are working, and actually we are worked on a definition of some blueprints for this use case that then we'll continue discussion, developing the test plans, and these blueprints will then be tested in different, let's say, TIP community labs, including ours, actually, and the results will be shared, and overall it would help us to kind of evaluate and pre-validate this kind of configuration before moving them into field. And this journey will continue in the future with some more demanding, I would say, use cases such as urban or the full Open RAN with the full consideration of intelligence and automation. I will hand over to Jean-Louis for the thoughts.
Thank you. Thank you, Atusa. So, hello, everyone. I'm very excited to be here with all of you today. So, yes, moving to the backbone. So, within Orange, we have been launching 2 years ago a program to transform our network from, I would say, a rigid box to a true Lego box with much more flexibility. This includes several evolutions, such as the merge of our international networks, such as the move to much more virtualization and containerization, such as the introduction of massive automation of our provisioning, and last but not least, the introduction of the so-called disaggregation. We have launched a project to disaggregate. We start with the layer 2 access network. We have a very dense network made of thousands of switches that are connecting our B2B customers at 1 gig, 10 gig, or 100 gig. And TIP is really catalyzing, if I may say so, this journey. We are contributing to the OOPT project. It allows us to share with the ecosystem, to understand who are the key players, to share with the community. And basically, now, I would say we are in the middle of the project. We have selected a white box vendor that is also contributing to TIP. This is EdgeCore Network. And we decided to rely on an open source network operating system, basically Sonic, and we have our own software development team in order to customize this Sonic operating system. So now we have a first product running in the lab. We are going to rely on TIP to do more testing, and the objective is to deploy live in our backbone in a few weeks, beginning of next year. We see major advantages moving to this disaggregation. The first one is to simplify our control plane with a unique network operating system controlling several flavors of hardware. The second advantage is, I would say, the autonomy and a kind of sovereignty to manage ourselves all the evolutions. We see as well benefits clearly in terms of cost. We will save roughly 20% of our cost with this journey. And last but not least, it is a great opportunity to upskill our teams, and we rely on TIP as well for this, upskilling our teams towards this very exciting network softwareization journey.
Well done, Orange. So what I'm hearing, the 3 key words from your presentation is upskilling, plug and play with automation, and community.
It was a fantastic walkthrough about a broad range of activities where the engagement and participation in TIP is actually being executed and implemented and used in your business across the world, actually. To round things up, I wanted to just ask very concretely and specifically, starting with Katja at the far end, if there's one thing TIP can do to further boost your journey, what would you choose?
I think disaggregation comes along with people who make that happen. And you mentioned upskilling. I think that is very important. And also, I think the idea of the TIP Academy is a very good initiative. So I would be looking forward to push that even more.
Perfect. Thank you. Andreas?
Yeah, so I think what is important is to minimize the cost for testing and integration further. So we are already on the route there. So with this joint test plans, with the idea of the new release of the community labs. However, we must develop solutions that are highly relevant also for our vendor side. So perhaps we can think about an approach to increase the meaning of our badges, etc., so that the operators finally say, okay, if this or that badge is released, then we trust it, and it is an important point for our integration or for our decision to bring in this or that kind of equipment into the real network. So that is, again, changing a little bit the approach of the operators overall.
Very good. Thank you. Juan Carlos?
So complementing Andreas, so I think TIP needs now to make a strong work on engaging a growing number of vendors and operators. I think this is relevant now to get a scale, and there are a number of tools that we are using for this, and we need to keep on using, like setting technical requirements, setting up the test and validation process, consolidating the test and validation process that Andreas was mentioning, and also somehow completing a consistent project graduation criteria, no? So that we can take things from the development phase to the commercialization in a clear way, no? With a clear process that helps operators and vendors to understand really the maturity of the open products that we are producing.
Very clear. Thank you. Andrea, what do you think?
I would like to emphasize the importance of vendor diversity in RAN and in transport. In RAN, because RAN is our most recurring CapEx, and in transport, because we are facing this gigabit race, especially with our fixed customers. So as an industry, I think that we have to move faster in this disaggregating journey, and TIP can really help us in going faster, going from innovation to deployment in an accelerated way.
Very good. And over to you, Atusa.
Yeah, I think that one of the areas that we would like to see further work on that with TIP is all of the challenges that brownfield operators would have. I mean, they have to accelerate the deployment of Open RAN in their network, particularly focusing on some important aspects such as energy efficiency. What would be the framework to test and to compare energy efficiency and energy consumption between open and traditional systems, and also security-related testing and validation. We think also that we need to drive, TIP needs to drive towards a more efficient, let's say, collaboration, coordination with the ecosystem. The objective here is to actually be able to, to have a better collaboration on test and integration, on sharing the test results, and with a final objective that could help operators to be able to take into account all of these TIP badging and certification into their, as a requirement to their sourcing process.
Very clear. And Jean-Louis.
Yes, in a few words. So as mentioned, we started our journey in the backbone at the edge of the backbone, at the access, because it was easy. Now we are going to move to the core, which require much more scalability, much more performances. And I think that with disaggregation, we can move to true network elasticity. That is the ability to upgrade or downgrade a node depending on the evolution of traffic. This would allow to flex our costs, and above all, this would allow us to optimize the energy consumption. So I strongly encourage TIP to move forward in that journey, and I encourage more operators, more suppliers to join us to speed up that very exciting journey.
Fantastic. I think we have our job laid.
Challenge accepted, right?
Thank you, everybody. This, ladies and gentlemen, this was TIP in action out in the field of these great operators. So there's a lot already ongoing and even more that can be done. Thank you.
Thank you.
You can all. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks. Thank you. Okay, there is still one session between the moment now and lunch, and it's an important and interesting. We just took a little bit of a tour around the world. We talked about Latin America. We talked, of course, about different parts of Europe. I think Jean-Louis mentioned Africa as well. I think we have one more session here, which is about what is happening in one great country, or actually subcontinent, called India. So I would like to ask Bryan Tan.
Me?
Yes.
All right.
And do you need this one?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Cool.
Good afternoon. My name is Bryan. I'm very pleased and honored to moderate this session. with Randeep Sekhon. He is the group CTO for Bharti Airtel. They have a large operation in India, in South Asia, as well as Africa. I'm really thankful for Randeep for coming on today. Let's see, where is he? Randeep, are you there?
I can see you, but I don't know whether you
Perfect. So I'm grateful for Randeep because he's made a special effort. He's come back early from his Diwali holidays to be with us virtually today. So Randeep, thank you very much for coming online with us.
Thank you, Bryan.
Let's get started. Randeep, I was in India earlier in October when you launched 5G. And I know that you and your team has been looking at disaggregated network technologies across the stack, RAN, transport, Wi-Fi. Can you talk to us a little bit about Airtel's journey on open and disaggregated?
Well, thank you, Bryan. First of all, the importance of desegregation. I think desegregation allows us to control the TCO. And second is allows us to get the best of everything. I mean, instead of depending upon one vertical, which may have something good and may not have something as good. So I think disaggregation has served us well in the core domain where cloud and hardware and VNFs are separate, and we have been using disaggregated core for a long time. But especially on RAN, where the largest capex goes and where the largest opportunity is there, I feel this is journey we must do and we must make it successful. Airtel has been working on the ORAN initiative. We started VRAN and now moved on to ORAN. And I will share with you where we are on that journey. I must say very pleasantly happy at where we are. We are also doing the same journey on cell-site routers. Just before this, there was a colleague of mine who said we started doing this desegregation towards the edge. And in India, it is not just desegregation on the edge, which is important. It is the TCO, which is also important, because once we start putting a desegregated router at the edge, we are looking at 250,000 sites in India. So it is very important that even $200 saved at this kind of volume is a huge amount of money when we look at the whole network. So second, it should not be just a normal functionality. It should work with automation. It should work with all the analytics which we have on our products coming from the other part of the journey. We have been working, we have been part of global bodies, we have been part and collaborating with the all ecosystem to make sure it succeeds. And even on Wi-Fi ecosystem, on creating a desegregated box, our current router is desegregated, hardware made by somebody, software made by somebody. And when we move to a Wi-Fi 6 journey, we also feel that this will also go the same way. So really speaking, with the focus of India, of made in India, with hardware getting made in India, and if we can control the software ecosystem, I think we will be able to bring really very smart products to India with the collaborating ecosystem at the TCOs which are needed for an Indian market. So exciting journey so far.
Wow. So Randeep, I'd like to maybe double click on your Open RAN adoption journey. Can you tell us a little bit about how you got your organization started, and then how are you progressing so far?
We started with a long time back actually on the VRAN journey with one of the partners, where we said, okay, let us start small and build a VRAN which had some part which was open and some part was still close to that ecosystem on a small cell. And those small cells are still working in our network. But we quickly got our belief, you'd say, set in this way of building RAN networks. So we started working on the ORAN for our 5G. We felt in 4G, because the ecosystem in India is already mature and already 4G is kind of rolled out and you have partners chosen. So bringing in a new 5G, 4G ORAN ecosystem may be a little too late, but a 5G based ORAN could be very much possible. Like you were there, we launched 5G, so 5G is just getting started in India. So we then concentrated more on a 5G ORAN, and we released RFP, we did a lot of trials. Finally, I can tell you and share with all the colleagues here that we were able to do a commercial trial. It was slightly delayed by the comparison of the standard partners, but that trial of almost 7 to 10 live sites in one of the northern states actually surprised me, honestly, if I speak from myself, because I expected the software maturity to be little below par, but it was, I would say, quickly brought on speed, and we could see good speeds, good coverage coming on a 5G ORN solution. Of course, that was not the solution we wanted to put in India. Then the solution came in lab. Where we stand today, we have already completed our, almost about to complete our lab setup, and then we go into field. This is very exciting because it is going to the field at the same time. Though in field others are scaling, this is going into field at the same time in a field commercial network where the commercial Airtel users will use this network for their 5G, first touch to 5G. And then we will scale up to a little larger number. We are committed, we will go up to 2000. And if all goes well, it can even scale to 10,000 kind of a sites. India is a large country. By the time it becomes 5G is equal to 4G, I think it will be faster than 4G is equal to 3G journey, but it will still take a couple of years. And I see ORAN ecosystem, a TCO efficient, and you can say functionality, maturity equivalent. I do not expect this ecosystem to be day zero comparable to the standard vendors, but near comparable. Then once the possibilities of an open ecosystem kicks in, it will throw in many more possibilities which are not possible today in closed ecosystem. So that's really our journey. We are very excited about it, and hopefully, I'm personally very excited to see one of the towns in North India being lit by ORAN 5G.
Thank you. Now, I'm really excited to hear this. So if you didn't hear the numbers, 2,000, 10,000, right? So this is a big boost to the Open RAN ecosystem from a demand perspective, from a very large player in India. Now, Randeep, I know that your team has also been working through, you alluded to the trials where there were some software issues, but your team has also been working through hard technical issues that you would like the ecosystem to fix. And now that you have this audience in front of you, what are the top 2-3 things that you'd want them to try and address?
I think one part I did not share earlier is that we have released a blueprint along with TIP, which is available for everybody to share once you make it available. I think a lot of our learnings and journeys of putting this ecosystem together is there, and I think it will bring us at least up to speed if somebody wants to try. During our journey, we have also reached out to many partners. Some of them, I see them present here today, and I'm again sorry I couldn't be there physically there. We would have shared face-to-face notes. We shared our notes with many other telco partners who are going through these journeys. We could learn some, share some learnings. I think few parts I will say I like to share a little bit openly is that we started with a layered cake approach where we wanted to do engagement with chip manufacturer, CUDU manufacturer, then ODMs, then a cloud manufacturer, then a VNF vendor, of course, then RU manufacturers, then you can say the SI to put it all together. I feel that if we try to play orchestration of all these things, it becomes very, very complex. Sometimes one partner is more mature than other partner is lagging, and sometimes somebody has a roadmap which is 3 months later, somebody is ready today. So it is better the moving parts are reduced and some anchor leader starts to drive this ecosystem instead of the telco trying to orchestrate everybody. That's my learning. That's Airtel's learning. So we have now pivoted on our partner to actually orchestrate everything, bring this first wave of sites up, and then I believe it can be scaled. If we keep trying to balance all the ecosystem either on performance or on, you can say, TCO, we will have challenges because in this layered cake, everybody does margin stacking, and you find your TCO becomes more expensive than the DRAN players, which will definitely hold back the scaling. So I would imagine that anchor stakeholders in the ORAN industry driving and others coming behind them would be the best way to scale. That's the model we'll follow. And with India being such a large country, we have, like I was sharing, 250,000 macro sites and many, many more small cells, high power small cells, which are coming up, which will densify further. Plus, if you put a layer on millimeter wave based rollouts, private network rollouts. There is a huge potential in a country like India for a technology like O-RAN to thrive. But the ecosystem has to come together to deliver experience and TCO together at the same time. If it is there, I think the possibilities are enough. And if we can match a Indian TCO, I believe that it will be a cakewalk in those economies where that much of TCO pressure is not there as much we have because of our ARPUs and our cost to serve challenges. So that's in summary, which I would like to share with my colleagues present here.
So really insightful point. So there's space, white space for a system integrator or a integrator to come in and own the entire system from an Airtel perspective. There's also a call to action to make sure that the TCO is right for a very ARPU challenged country like India. Now, there was a Deloitte report that came out earlier this year that showed that India RAN volumes is 20% of global volumes. And so given the hard technical requirements, but the big volumes that you have, what are your thoughts around local India supply being anchored on someone like yourselves deploying big volumes and taking this solution out to the rest of the world in a built-in India mode?
I think, Bryan, very good point. My belief, I'm like a very strong believer in open systems and strong believer in O-RAN. My belief is that if O-RAN has to scale in the world, it has to scale where at least it is deployed in tens of thousands in a closed geography, not many more countries, because every country has its own challenge. So today in an open world, this, you can say this opportunity can be provided by India to a large extent, and more so when O-RAN is entering at the same time when the 5G rollouts are starting. That means it is not like 4G where the technology had played out and we did not have much space left for a new player to come in. So I think if India can get it and it can have Indian TCO coming up, then it is definitely a possibility that it will reach at those sweet spot TCO levels where it will be like music if it was being offered at similar even margin stacked levels in more less TCO markets like maybe Europe or Americas, and it can then scale. And then if you use a manufacturing ecosystem based out of India, which would have already produced to Indian TCO, I think it will be a good place to supply to the world. So that's my belief.
Thank you, Randeep. Again, I'd like, on behalf of TIP, to thank you for coming back early from your Diwali break and gracing us with your wisdom. So thank you again very much for coming on. And you have a good evening in India.
Thank you, Bryan. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. So, Kristian. So maybe before, there is a Build in India Part 2. It's happening at 12:30 in Kaju Katli room, where the Build in India supply ecosystem would like to explain to this audience what they're doing across Open RAN, Open Optical, as well as Open Wi-Fi. So please go take a look there. Lunch will be served there as well, so you will not go hungry. Kristian.
Yeah, perfect. I think you said most of it. So thank you for the morning. Let's all remember to visit the TIP Academy stand. Let's network, let's post, let's have good food, and try to be here from 2:15 p.m. onwards in time for 2:30 when we start the afternoon sessions. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right.
Thank you.